At night on the streets of Chicago, Detective Mike Norris chased the serial killer, nicknamed the Lakeshore Strangler, Charles Lee Ray. Norris shot Ray, leaving him badly hurt. Ray's accomplice, Eddie, panicked and drove off, abandoning him. Ray fled into a toy store with Norris close behind. They chased each other through the aisles of the toy store. Ray realized he would die soon. In his anger, he muttered that he would find a living person. Then, even after he died, his soul could inhabit someone else to be reborn. In the end, he found no one, but the fallen good guy doll looked surprisingly real. So Ray pulled out the doll, grabbed its head, and chanted a mysterious voodoo spell. The once quiet night sky cracked with lightning. One bolt struck the toy store directly. The explosion's shockwave threw Norris across the room. In the wreckage, Norris found Ray's lifeless body next to the good guy doll. It was Andy's 6th birthday. While watching a good guy doll commercial on TV, he wanted one badly. The thoughtful Andy made breakfast and brought it to his mother Karen in bed. Karen was a single mother raising Andy alone. He urged Andy to open his birthday gift quickly. When Andy saw the gift, his smile froze. Because money was tight, Karen couldn't afford a proper present. She had bought a pair of jeans from a thrift store instead, jeans that would last Andy several years. Seeing Andy's disappointment, Karen knew the gift he truly wanted was a good guy doll. One day at work in the department store, Karen's co-worker Maggie told her a homeless peddler outside was selling a used good guy doll at a low price. In the store, a new good guy doll cost $100. Here, the peddler asked only $50. Karen examined the doll. It matched the one in the ad exactly. After bargaining, she bought it for $30. Andy was overjoyed when he got the doll. When they interacted, the doll could move its eyes and introduce itself by name, saying it was called Chucky. That night, Karen had to work late, so she asked Maggie to stay at the apartment and watch Andy. It was late, and Maggie wanted Andy to go to bed early, but Andy insisted Chucky wanted to watch the 9 o'clock news. Maggie did not believe him. She thought it was just an excuse. She turned off the TV, holding Andy in one arm and Chucky in the other. She led them into the room. Maggie went to the kitchen to do the dishes. While she was washing, she suddenly heard the TV sound from the living room. She rushed over and saw the doll, once in the bedroom, now sitting on the couch facing the TV. Meanwhile, the news was reporting Eddie's movements. While being escorted to court by police, he had escaped from custody. Thinking Andy was being playful, Maggie angrily turned off the TV and took the doll. She found Andy in the bathroom and chided him to be good. Then she settled Andy in bed, still holding the doll. Andy was bewildered. He meekly told Maggie he had not turned on the TV. Maggie clearly did not believe him. Later, while Maggie sat in the living room reading, the bedroom door opened quietly. Maggie heard soft footsteps, da, 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 and assumed Andy had come out. She followed the sound but found no one. From the kitchen came a noise. When she investigated, she saw only a bag of flour spilled all over the floor. Was it mice? While Maggie stood confused, her phone rang abruptly and startled her. It was Karen. Because she did not want Maggie to worry, Karen said nothing about what had happened earlier. She hung up. Maggie went to clean up the kitchen. At that moment, she noticed something at the window. Maybe something hiding there? She moved a potted plant aside, but saw nothing. In the instant she turned her head, a hammer slammed hard against her forehead. Terrified, Maggie backed up and smashed through a glass window. She fell from the 6th floor to the ground below. When Karen got off work, the police had already cordoned off the area downstairs. Karen rushed home. Thankfully, Andy was safe. From Norris, Karen learned the news of Maggie's death. She was heartbroken. She had spoken to Maggie earlier on the phone. She had seemed fine. What had really happened? The police found small footprints in the flour. They checked the shoes in the closet, but the footprints did not match Andy's shoes. At the time of the crime, only Maggie and Andy were in the house. If the footprints were not Andy's, whose were they? Norris remained silent in puzzlement. Clever Andy discovered a key clue. Chucky's shoes had flour stuck to them. Andy hurried to tell Karen this, but Karen thought Andy was making things up and paid no attention. That night, Karen heard Andy talking to someone in his room. Fearing an intruder, she turned on the light. To her surprise, it was Chucky. Andy told Karen that Chucky often talked to him. He said Chucky's true name was Ray, and that his dead father had sent him down from heaven to play with Andy. Ray had also told Andy that Maggie was not a good person and would eventually face retribution. Seeing Andy acting strange and speaking to a doll, Karen was shocked. Andy insisted Chucky was alive. Karen did not believe him. She thought these were just stories from her son and feared he had become obsessed with the doll. Holding Chucky, Karen said, "It's just plastic and stuffing, just a toy, not a real person." Sensitive Andy knew how sad his mother was about Maggie's death. He said nothing further and instead promised Karen he would never tell stories again. The next day, under Chucky's influence, Andy skipped school. The two took a train, seemingly heading somewhere important. Along the way, Chucky occasionally whispered into Andy's ear, Eventually, they arrived near an abandoned, rundown house. It turned out to be Eddie's hideout. While Andy went to tinkle, Chucky quietly slipped into the kitchen. He turned on the gas and left it running. Hearing strange noises, Eddie thought the police had found him. He rushed into the kitchen and, without hesitation, fired his gun. The shot ignited the gas, causing the entire house to explode. Eddie was instantly killed. That was the price for betraying Ray. Karen was called to the police station after learning that Andy had been at the scene of the explosion. She was on the verge of a breakdown. Andy told everyone that Chucky had done everything. He begged Chucky to admit the truth in front of everyone, but Chucky remained completely silent. Frustrated, Andy hit the doll several times. No one believed his story. The psychiatrist present suspected that Andy had psychological issues and decided to keep him at the hospital for observation. Karen took Chucky home. While cleaning up the packaging box, she noticed that the battery pack inside was still sealed. That made no sense. How had the doll been talking without batteries? To find out, Karen checked the battery compartment inside the doll. It was empty. That was beyond strange. Suddenly, Chucky spoke, startling Karen. Her hands trembled and the doll fell to the floor, rolling under the couch. Summoning her courage, Karen reached down and pulled Chucky out. She demanded that he talk again, but this time, Chucky remained motionless. Karen lit the fireplace and threatened him. If he didn't speak, she would throw him into the flames. Her threat worked. Furious, Chucky began shouting obscenities. Then he bit Karen's arm viciously before fleeing through the elevator shaft. Karen tried to chase him, but it was too late. He had escaped. With no other choice, Karen went to the police station. At the entrance, she ran into Norris and told him the truth. Andy hadn't lied. The doll was alive. The one who killed Maggie and Eddie was Chucky. She even showed Norris the bite marks on her arm, saying the doll had done it. Now that Chucky was on the loose, they had to catch him fast. Norris looked bewildered. The idea of a murderous doll sounded impossible. But determined to clear Andy's name, Karen decided to find Chucky on her own. She tracked down the homeless peddler who had sold her the good guy doll. The streets were dangerous after dark. When Karen asked about the doll's origin, the man suddenly turned hostile and tried to rob her. Just in time, Norris appeared and stopped the attack, rescuing Karen. He interrogated the peddler, and the man confessed that he had found the doll in the wreckage of the burned-down toy store. The revelation shocked Norris. That was the exact place where Charles Lee Ray had died. After dropping Karen off safely, Norris drove away, planning to head home and rest. But Chucky had already hidden in the back seat of his car. While Norris focused on driving, Chucky suddenly jumped up, looping a cord around his neck, trying to strangle him. In a desperate moment, Norris grabbed the car's cigarette lighter and pressed it against Chucky's face, burning him badly. The doll screamed in pain and released him. Then Chucky pulled out a knife and stabbed it through the car seat. If Norris hadn't reacted quickly, the result would have been disastrous. The car spun out of control and crashed, flipping over several times before coming to a stop. Norris was injured, but he managed to grab his gun and shoot Chucky, hitting him in the torso. The bullet wounded Chucky and even drew blood. Screaming in pain, Chucky ran away into the night. The next day, the injured Norris joined forces with Karen to take action. They went to Charles Lee Ray's old hideout to look for clues. Inside the dark, decaying room, the walls were covered in disturbing occult symbols and creepy murals. In one corner, they noticed a portrait of a voodoo priest. Norris recognized the man as John, Ray's mentor in black magic. They realized Chucky would likely go to John for help, so they immediately drove toward John's home. Meanwhile, Chucky had already arrived at John's place first. He demanded to know why he was bleeding and feeling pain, and he pressured John to teach him how to become human again. John was horrified and refused to help. He sternly warned Chucky that the longer he stayed in the doll's body, the more human he would become. Enraged, Chucky pulled out a voodoo doll that looked exactly like John. He began torturing it, snapping its arms and legs, and John's limbs broke the same way, leaving him screaming in agony. Mortally wounded, John finally gave in. He revealed the truth. The only way Chucky could transfer his soul was into the first person he had revealed himself to, Andy. After getting the answer, Chucky coldly stabbed the voodoo doll, killing John instantly, then rushed off to find Andy. When Karen and Norris arrived, they found John barely alive, lying in a pool of blood. With his last breath, John warned them that Chucky planned to perform a soul transfer ritual on Andy. He also told them the only way to kill Chucky was to destroy his heart, which was slowly turning human. At that moment, Chucky was already on his way to the psychiatric hospital, where Andy was being held. Inside his room, Andy saw Chucky climbing toward the window and panicked. He quickly tried to find a way out. When no one was watching, Andy slipped out of his room. But in the hallway, he ran into Dr. Ardmore, the physician in charge. Terrified, Andy shouted that Chucky was coming, but the doctor thought he was having another episode and tried to calm him down. Just then, Chucky appeared out of nowhere and stabbed the doctor hard in the leg with a scalpel. He then dragged Ardmore into a therapy room and turned on an electroshock device, electrocuting the doctor to death. Amid the chaos, Andy escaped from the hospital. He knew Chucky wouldn't stop, so he ran home as fast as he could, hoping to hide. Moments later, Karen and Norris arrived at the hospital and learned that Dr. Ardmore was dead and Andy had disappeared. Karen immediately realized Andy might have gone home, so she and Norris rushed to her apartment. Sure enough, Andy had already made it home. He locked the front door and hid in the bedroom closet, shaking with fear. Soon, Chucky arrived. He crawled in through a ventilation shaft and began searching every room. Before long, he found Andy hiding in the closet. Andy tried to defend himself with a baseball bat, but Chucky's unnatural strength overwhelmed him and knocked him out. Chucky then began setting up his voodoo ritual. Just as he started chanting the spell, Karen and Norris burst into the apartment, interrupting the ceremony. Furious, Chucky attacked them with his knife, biting Karen on the neck and sending her to the floor screaming. When Norris tried to help, Chucky stabbed him in the leg, paralyzing him, then hit him on the head with Andy's bat. Chucky raised his knife to deliver the final blow, but Karen, fighting through the pain, grabbed Norris's fallen gun and fired. The bullet struck Chucky, knocking him back. Seizing the moment, Karen kicked him into the fireplace and slammed the screen shut, trapping him inside. Andy regained consciousness, lit a match, and set the fireplace ablaze. Flames engulfed Chucky as he shrieked and burned, his plastic body melting in the roaring fire. Karen and Andy collapsed to the floor, thinking the nightmare was finally over. But as Karen helped the wounded Norris, the charred Chucky suddenly crawled out of the fireplace again. His body was half melted, but he was still alive, laughing in a low, rasping voice as he came after them once more. Karen pulled Andy and Norris into a bedroom and locked the door. Moments later, the burnt Chucky broke through, lurching forward with terrifying persistence. Desperate, Karen fired several shots, blasting off Chucky's head, one arm, and one leg. Even then, his mangled torso kept writhing on the floor. At that moment, Norris's partner, Jack Santos, arrived as backup. He was stunned to see doll parts scattered everywhere. Ignoring Karen's warning, he picked up Chucky's burnt head, laughing at the idea of a killer doll. But before he could finish his words, Chucky's headless torso burst from a vent, grabbed Jack by the throat, and slammed him to the ground. The head in Jack's hand rolled its eyes and screamed, while the body tried to choke him to death. Karen rushed forward and pulled the doll off Jack, yelling for Norris to shoot its heart. Despite his injury, Norris took aim and fired. The bullet struck Chucky's chest, piercing his heart. Chucky let out a final, horrifying scream, then went completely still. At last, the killer doll was truly dead. Norris's leg needed medical attention. Jack barely survived, and though shaken, Karen and Andy were finally safe.